Hello and welcome to another edition of the Tigers Down Under. And boy, it's nice to be sitting here talking about a win for once. It's been, what was it? I think 80 days was the stat since our last victory. And here with me to talk about it, I have Dan. How are you, Dan?
Yeah, good. Look, better than I've been after the last 13 games.
Yeah.
Can't believe it's been that long.
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy. And it's one of those games where in hindsight, to an extent, it felt like this was the game we were going to win. Like coming into it, everyone's talking about it being must win. Swansea were sort of in that group of teams, you'd say, middle of the table, which were very gettable. And, if we turned up and performed, we should get the win. But as you say, I mean, given the way we've been playing lately, nothing's guaranteed, but it feels pretty good to have come away with the win there.
Yeah, look, I think it was a pretty tricky sort of game. In the end, I think I thought it was probably our best performance in a little while. And obviously, a few things that Sayers has had a little bit more time with the squad and a little bit more time to imprint his ideas and a little bit of tinkering with the formation. I think we had 2 changes from the previous game, so I think it's it's a positive sign. In the long run, I think as doom as gloom as we all were, like it took one win and we've jumped outside of the bottom 3. So obviously it's still very touch and go and it's still pretty tight down there, but I was being very sarcastic and I said, well, we're only 6 wins out of the top 6. And obviously, realistically, you'd need probably 12 wins in a row or something to make up all that ground and get there. But at this midway point of the season, the spread actually isn't that huge. And we get a couple more wins. We start picking up, more points than we're dropping, which is easier said than done. I understand that. But, we start, just moving away from that bottom group. And I think, I think that's what we've hopefully got to look forward to in the next little bit. And you potentially add some recruitments in January, and we probably look a lot better than a bottom 3 side. So
yeah, and like I sort of said to Dill last week, the significance of this game and getting the win is suddenly you're looking at 4 points from 3 games under Sellers, which, and it could have been more, taking the lead. We've taken the lead in all 3 of the games now under Sellers. So being in a winning position in all 3 games, which says to me, at least, you look at the Watford goal that we conceded, you look at the Swansea goal that we conceded, where it seems more errors that we can sort of correct, where when it's in your hands, it's controllable in that sense. It's actually a better position to be in, where you're sort of saying, okay, well, we could actually be even better off if we cut these silly errors out of our games, or if we tightened up a bit more defensively, which bodes really well for this coming run of games.
Yeah, I think particularly that the goal that we copped against Swansea was pretty disappointing. It was sort of, we sort of half dealt with it, but then we didn't clear it properly, and so they sort of Swansea regained and recycled, and then just sort of floated a ball in from 30 yards out, and not even in a really dangerous sort of position. It just, and then we just didn't handle it, and there was a sort of.
It's probably Hughes there as well. Hughes, who I thought had a pretty good game all in general, but I thought he was probably at fault for that one.
Yeah, look, I'm sure someone's going to find a way to blame Coyle, but look, I think overall, this, it's been a while since I've been I wasn't necessarily excited to stay up and watch this time, but at least the game itself, there was enough going on where the game kept me awake. Where probably the last few, the last couple of months, the football's been pretty dour and dross and sleep inducing at times. So it was nice to have a game that had a bit of excitement and where we actually looked like we were playing some reasonably decent football. Created some really good chances. Slater should have just tapped one in from about 6 yards out. There's another one or two other good ones.
There was a few, because there was the Slater one. Longman, was it when we were up 1-0 and Longman forced the keeper into spilling the ball, but then gets in the way of the shot. Was it Pedro hit the ball hit the post, then hits the back of the keeper and somehow spins over and out for a corner. We just go, how on earth has that not gone in? And then
And
Longman
I
hits the
think,
post in the second half.
yeah, I think with some of those ones, because like we scored and then we conceded quite quickly. It was only 6 or 8 minutes or something later. I think when we were getting those other chances and they just weren't falling and they weren't falling and they weren't falling, you just sort of were starting to go, here we go again. Like Swansea's going to just come away and get in late in the second half, jag a second, goal and walk away with the 3 points. But I think the other thing is the substitutions. Sayers' substitutions seem to work. They were really well timed. I think, particularly Burstow came on and had a huge impact. I think, wanted to get on the ball, wanted to, drive at his opposition, wanted to, create chances, have shots, but also at the other end defensively did really well. Winning us a few free kicks when we're getting out of trouble just by, really strong body positioning and things like that. So I think there was, I think, to be honest, I think he's earned himself a start in the next game. I think he's been like a couple of goals in his last couple of few appearances and what was a really, really solid showing off the bench. I think he'd be probably over Kamara, who continues to underwhelm, if I'm being honest.
And it's an interesting one with Burstow because I completely agree. I think he deserves to start, but I'm going to be really curious because I wonder if he's in that sort of category where his energy and enthusiasm works really well off the bench against sort of tiring legs. So there's no reason he shouldn't start the game. I think he will most likely be in the starting 11 against Preston. I'm just curious to see how he goes from the start.
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing. Like he's earned the start, and if he can perform for the 60 minutes now at a good level and can maintain that, then awesome. And if not, we go, well, at the moment, he's a great impact player off the bench. And if he gets a half hour every week and he comes on and scores goals, then I don't think anyone will be complaining too much because he is only 21 or something.
21, yeah.
Yeah, like he's very young, and to, come in and obviously I had limited opportunities through the first half, we're almost halfway, but through most of this first half of the season, and then in the last few, where he's actually had some decent stints, he's got a couple of goals and important ones as well. So I think bright future, or at least hopefully a bright second half of the season.
And joins a very limited or exclusive group of players who were former Sunderland players, where Sunderland supporters said they were absolute crap. Not worth having. George Honeyman, El Mohammadi, a few others like that. Who, as soon as he crosses the divide and joins City, 2 goals in 4 games, looking pretty good. As much as it's the keeper's error that, the ball lands at his feet for the goal, it's a really good finish outside the box, curling shot into the far corner, far edge of the goal, really, away from the keeper. It's a really composed finish. And then, like you said, I guess first talk about the goal. It was a really composed finish from him.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things you as you say, you can sort of put it down to a goalkeeping error, but I think from where he picked up the ball, he still had a fair bit of work to do. He ran at 20 yards, took on his defender, got it onto outs, or I guess technically inside the defender, but into a position to shoot, and then sort of nice placement, curls it around the keeper in. So I think I think really credit goes to him, because the shot he had before that, about 5 minutes before, was absolutely atrocious, and he just dribbled it into the keeper from inside the box. So I think. It was a good goal and a good finish, and it's sort of you got to be in that position, and he put himself in that space where he sort of is in the channel to block the pass, and it just happened to be a crappy clearance that fell to him. So I think he did a lot of more things right than just fortuitous circumstance.
And you made the joke in the chat. I don't know who actually mans the cameras, if it's the EFL who sends people out, or if it's City, giving the local work experience kid a go. It's been a few games now. It's just driving me nuts that the replays that they show just continue on far too long when the action's resumed. And luckily, the commentator, I presume, doesn't have a feed of the replays and is actually just commentating the live game, because the commentator's often going and talking about what's going on, and you're like, why are we zoomed in on, Sayers or Williams, or looking at another replay of a potential foul that has already been, waved away, or whatever it would be? So I think the commentator was actually starting to talk about, Burstow's got the ball, and you're going, oh, something's going to happen, and we finally cut to it. But it's just driving me mad sometimes with those replays.
Yeah, I think I don't know what it is this season, because I didn't think it was that bad.
No, it's just this season, I
It
think.
just seemed to be like this season. Yeah, there's been something going on with the instructions to the camera crew or something, or they're trying to be a bit too, I don't know, too technical, too just like maybe just dial it back, just focus on the football, just don't worry about the other stuff. But
yeah, you talked before about the substitutions, and you also you joked a little bit about Coyle. I actually thought Drame coming on at right wing back, or right back, I guess, was actually really effective. And this is maybe Giles's best game in a City shirt as well on the left. And I actually thought, when we went 2-1 up, there was every justification for City to really sit back and just defend and soak up the pressure. But, Drame was still getting forward. You saw him and Longman working quite well on that right-hand side and getting the ball into space and creating a few opportunities there as well. I was actually a bit surprised to see Coyle in the starting 11. I thought after his last few games, we might have seen him get a rest. It does open the door somewhat to Drame potentially starting against Preston next game.
Yeah, I thought he was another one who came on and was really positive and really bright. And I think Drame, with that performance, put away the sort of horror show from the game before or a couple of weeks ago behind him. And as you say, with some really nice link-up play getting forward. So I think, I mean, he's probably as much, he stamped a claim there in that position. And I guess it's just what Sayers is seeing day in, day out on the right back. But I wouldn't be I think we've got two fullbacks on that right hand side who are both quality, but they have different qualities, like different strengths. So I'd really like to see Drame get a start there, in his position. Like we've seen him plenty on the left, but it'd be nice to see him, start a game on the right hand side and see, what he can do.
And he just seems more suited to Sellers' style. Like there was a few times in that first half where Coyle got the ball where we were either attacking or Swansea might have cleared the ball, and we needed to keep the momentum up. But then Coyle would pass it back to Panda, and you're like, Kamara would be free, or there'd be an option up the field, but Coyle would always seem to take that safe option. And I've noticed it a bit. Coyle and probably Jones are the two that seem to do it a lot. Slater sometimes, but not as much. Where I'm hoping that Sayers can sort of train that out of them or coach that out of them to actually look forward a bit more, because it does really dull our momentum and our attacking chances quite a bit sometimes.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, we're seeing under Sayers, this sustained, we're building periods of sustained pressure, but they're actually dangerous.
Yeah.
Whereas it seemed like, under Walter, there were games where we had sustained pressure, so
it's like 70% possession, but
we had lots of possession, but we'd get sort of up to the corner of the box, and then we'd just recycle it around back and forth and back and forth. Whereas we seem to be now we get down the line, we put a cross in, we press, we regather, we go again, we try again, and it seems to be well, to be honest, it's a little bit more effective, but and a little bit more exciting. So,
which it's crazy because we're doing that with 40%, 45% possession. Like we're actually having the ball less, but we're so much more dangerous with it.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I guess it's just like a thought process thing, or something, like a less mental. If you just when we win the ball, we're going to attack. Don't have to think too much about what to do there. Whereas I guess if you're trying to play possession and you're really working on moving other players around and pulling players out of position and tactical passes and all that sort of stuff, while they're professionals and they should be able to do it, I guess it's that thing where it takes a lot more concentration to be like, okay, well, if I need to open up this channel, I've got to play that ball and get it back and then go over here and then play through that space. Whereas I guess now we're just getting it and running forward. Like you saw Giles just picked it up at one point in the second half and just drove 30 yards right to the edge of the 18, and it sort of he almost managed to create a really good goal scoring chance. It just sort of bounced away from him at the end. But I thought I was really, really pleased with the performance and with the result. Obviously, I think it's nice. just built those performances and over the 3 games under Sayers, and I think we're putting ourselves in a good position to undo the damage that had been done.
Yeah, and I think and just finally, a comment on the work rate I thought from some of the players. Like I thought Longman, Slater, criminal miss aside, Puerta even, who was probably lucky not to get a second yellow because he was throwing himself around a lot, which we've been calling out for, to be honest. Like we've missed that sort of aggression in midfield a bit. So Puerta clearly towed the line on the right side of it this time. But him, Longman, Slater, Simons when he came on as well, I thought as a shout out for him, I thought they were all like running themselves into the ground. And we've been saying, other players really playing for the shirt. Volta's gone. It's now on the players to show that they actually have the desire and the ability to pull us out of trouble. And at least on this display, it was really there.
Yeah, I think in my 3-2-1, there's a couple of points that I've given were just purely for that, where I thought the player looked gassed, and then they showed, they fought through that a bit of desperation not to concede a goal, and they, tracked back a very, very long way further than I thought they ever would to win the ball back. So
yeah, well, maybe we go on to that then. Who are your votes?
I've given 3 points to Burstow, who just, as sort of we touched on before, just thought it was a really, really good performance, really impactful when he came off the bench. Obviously got the winning goal as well. I gave 2 points to Pedro, actually. So I thought, and he was the one that I was late in the game where he looked gassed, from about 60 minutes, as he sort of tends to do, looked gassed. And then, it's about 80 minutes in, Swansea's they're breaking down their left hand channels. It gets away from Slater, and then who's this charging through the middle to recover the possession? There's João Pedro, and I was like, okay,
he played the full 90. I was amazed. Yeah,
and I just think I guess maybe he is just getting himself back up to fitness, but I think he's really trying to be a bit of a leader in the team as well, and showing some, that desperation, that hunger to not concede, from silly positions and in winning positions. He doesn't seem to want to throw away those leads anymore. So I was really impressed with a couple of his sort of lung-busting defensive efforts where he put himself way out of position for a number 9, but, helped break up a promising Swansea attack. And I feel harsh on him, but I've given only 1 point to Giles because I thought this was his best game I've maybe ever seen him play in a City shirt. I thought he was really, really good. Whipped some really nice balls in. That really nice drive towards the Swansea box. And to be honest, I don't really remember much of Swansea's attack coming down that left-hand side at all. I think it was pretty solid there as well. So an all-round really positive display, which is probably unlucky to only pick up 1 point.
Yeah, well, actually, he didn't pick up any votes for me. So in a way, it shows how even a performance it probably was, that there's quite a lot of candidates for votes in this one. But we agreed on the 3. I gave that to Burstow as well. I gave Puerta the 2. I thought his effort, his running in midfield, his tenacity, and then, like I said, I guess not getting that second yellow was crucial as well. So I thought that was probably his best display in a City shirt as well, to be honest. I went Longman for the 1 vote as well. I thought, initially linking up really well with Giles on the left, and then later linking up really well with Drame on the right. He just has to be the unluckiest player at the moment. Has the header against the post against Coventry last week, gets in the way of a shot early in this game after doing really well to force the ball away from the keeper. Hits the post in the second half when he looked like he was through to score a goal as well. It just feels like it's coming for him. He's getting into really good positions, and his work rate is really helping the team keep the ball quite high up the pitch. It keeps us out of danger if they can't get it down to attack us. So full credit to him. But just such a great game in general. I was thinking about, because I was stood watching the last 5 minutes of this game, willing the whistle to go, and I haven't been that invested in the whistle going since Middlesbrough last season, that game where Allsop made the triple save right at the end or something like that. But it's games like that just remind you, this is what it's all about. Getting these sorts of wins is great. We've got Chase in the comments saying, agreed, it's the best game he's seen from Puerta. It was so encouraging, and especially with Palmer being out injured.
Sorry, you go.
Yeah, sorry, you go.
Oh, that's a good point. I forgot about Palmer's out for, I think I saw like 6 to 8 weeks or something. He's out for a
Yeah.
little while. I was just going to say the other thing was this nice contrast, because I think I was on a few weeks ago and I just abstained from. I was just like, I can't vote because everyone was so shit. And now like I was like, I don't even know who to give. Because you were saying Puerto, and I was like, yeah, he probably deserves points as well. And I was like, oh yeah, Longman had it. And I'm like, now we're going, well, how do we fit 9 players into 3 positions? So I think looks like they really built that. Sayers has got him feeling pretty confident again. So that's really good.
Which I think, and I said it might have been the last time you were on, it really underlines how completely rubbish the claim was that, we need 2-3 months under Volta to really get the players playing well, and you got to give them all time and, to gel, blah, blah, blah. Sellers has come in, and within 2-3 weeks, this was his first full week with them on the training ground, and you can see the style, you can see what he wants them to do. Does it always work? No, but it's so distinctive and it's so positive. It's really great to see. All right, well, we'll talk Preston and Blackburn then. We've got the 2 games, Boxing Day, so Friday morning. I should double check that, whatever the Australian time is. And then was it Monday morning, I think, against Blackburn? Yeah, 2 a.m. Friday and then 2 a.m. Monday, which is, fun times to be watching football, but that's fine. But look, Blackburn we only played recently. It was the last game before Sellers came in, where really we were probably the better team. Well, I would say we were the better team. They didn't have a shot at all until about 70, 80 minutes into the game. And Preston, I've only got 1 win in 5, and they're only sitting a few points above us in the table, where you think all of a sudden, off the back of the 3 points against Swansea, if you get 4 points from these 2 games, maybe even 6 points, suddenly, like you said, it's still so bunched together, you're suddenly almost sitting in mid-table.
Mate, aren't you a believer? I'm pretty sure we're just starting our 13-game winning run now.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think, you're right. Like Preston being just above us, it becomes a really important game. It's almost as well as like a must-win game. A game you win this and you start, you're making strides up the table. You're beating the teams around near you and around you. It becomes really important. And as you say, Blackburn weren't all that impressive. So, like I don't know. I feel like I want to say
kills you, right? You don't want to say anything.
Yeah, right. I want to say 6 points, but like also like maybe I'm being a bit too. I've been so pessimistic for so long. I just have all this hope and optimism to let out all of a sudden. But I mean, maybe 6 points. I'd say as long
as we can get something.
4 would be 4 would be great. 6, it's kind of one of those. 6 would be amazing. 4 would be great. 3 would be okay, and anything less than that, you'd probably be disappointed with. If you only came away with 1 or 2 points, you'd probably be a bit disappointed. But
I'd maybe take 2 points only in the sense that it would mean like a 3-game unbeaten run.
Yeah.
And even at this point, like you're looking at the teams below us, like Cardiff, Oxford, Plymouth, even Portsmouth and Stoke above us. 2 points, you're almost like that's probably you're gaining ground on them.
Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know. Like I reckon Preston, is a really good chance for us to pick up 3 points, move up the table a little bit. I think I guess my concern with the Blackburn, even though they weren't that great when we played them, is they're 4 wins in 5. They're in 5th place, so they're obviously like they're not there by accident at this stage of the season. So they are obviously a really strong side, and maybe they had an off night against us, or maybe we just played really well on the night to impress the incoming manager or whatever. But I think I'd really like to see us get the 3 against Preston, definitely, and then sort of take whatever you can get maybe in the second one. I reckon Burstow has to come in to the starting 11. And I don't know. Yeah, maybe we should start Drummer as well. Give Coyle that rest, because he has looked a bit leggy, probably the last few games, where he sort of got outpaced and outran and stuff a little bit, and maybe also just to go like, hey, this is what I want in your position, to just be able to watch. Drame hopefully have a nice, positive, forward-moving sort of a game. But apart from that, like it's hard to
Yeah,
I feel really hard. I think Simons has been outstanding, like really, really solid all year, and yet you go like based on the game against Swansea, like who do you take?
that midfield worked really well. Yeah.
So, but I'd maybe Simons in the black for the Blackburn game with a little bit of rotation with a short turnaround, but I don't know.
And I think that's a good point with the rotation, because obviously we didn't do that against Coventry and probably paid the price for it a bit. But if Coyle gets that rest against Preston, then potentially he comes back in for Blackburn, arguably like the harder fixture. You want a bit more defensive solidity, and go with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really much else. I mean, it's probably a little bit surprised.
Betty is probably not coming in for Pedro, but I don't know if Pedro can start 3 in a week.
Yeah, probably not. I was probably a bit surprised we didn't see Bedia sort of like at all against Swansea. I sort of around that 70 minutes mark, we started making some subs, and I thought, oh yeah, he'll be Bedia come on, and I thought actually it would have been a really good game for him to come on, because we seem to be pulling the Swansea backline apart, but hopefully he gets a chance in one of these 2 games, even if it. You're probably right. He probably has to start one of them, because can Pedro do 290 minutes or like 2 starts in 4 days at 31 or 32, which isn't that old.
It's not that old. Careful.
I'm older than that. But to be fair, whenever I have to start to play 2 or 3 games in a week, I'm pretty wrecked afterwards.
Yeah. But another one we haven't really seen is Omer. Like he hasn't played for a few weeks now, and look, there's some suggestion whether that means he's going somewhere in January. Might be the case, but it does seem reasonably telling that we haven't seen him at all. I don't think in the last 2 games.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's one of those things like we've spoken all year about how much like our midfield is the only place where we have any like real depth.
Yeah.
So I mean, somebody in all that crew has to miss out. And like,
I guess with Palmer now injured, though, it does open that space somewhat.
Yeah, that's probably the only. Because I guess
because if you brought Omer in for say Slater, that does feel like it's a bit of an upgrade.
Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. I'm just trying to remember who else, because Palmer's out. We got Puerta, Slater, Omer, Simons,
Alzate.
Oh, Alzate.
Burns, I guess, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I
think he's definitely going back. I mean, we've got Thomas in the chat saying, "Wonder when the transfer rumors will start." And it's a good, like we were sort of saying last episode, getting wins or getting points in these 2 games is almost just as important, because if you're suddenly heading into January, call it 15th in the table, makes it so much easier to recruit players and to convince players to join than if you're rock bottom of the table, coming into January. So, as valuable as that win was just for our confidence, it does, do wonders like for teams looking at us, seeing us outside the relegation zone versus in it. And as Thomas says as well, hopefully a win on Thursday to keep the momentum up.
I think the other thing, is with Sayers as well. Like, just we talked about how important getting the right man in was, and like Sayers is a known quantity in England now. He's been there for a few years, and so I think that also helps. Like, we made really good recruitment with Liam Rosenior, and I think part of that was because people like knew what to expect with him. He'd been at a few clubs and worked, in an assistant capacity and things, and people knew, players knew him as a player and of him as a coach and his reputation and what he was trying to do, and they wanted to come and work with him. And I think like that was missing under Walter, which is part of like people went, well, what are we what do we expect? What are we going to see from him? Whereas we go back to Sayers, and you got a manager who's played in England or like managed in England for a few years. He's got a reputation for playing a certain way, for doing certain things, and and I think that will help us in attracting some of those players as well, where they go, yeah, I want to come and work with him because I know like he did a good job here, and he was doing great things at Reading, even if it wasn't like League One, but yeah.
And I wonder if I know Southampton probably aren't in a position to be loaning players out. They sort of need everyone they can get, but if you're looking at clubs that he has a former working relationship with, I do wonder if there's an avenue to, if they're going to bring in players in January to try and help them pull out of the relegation zone and they need to offload a few, even just on loan, whether anyone wants to come here.
Yeah, I mean, anything's a chance. Don't know. I guess I'm pretty interested to see sort of what names start getting.
Yeah, because it's been pretty
like
quiet
links.
in terms of names. Yeah.
I haven't been like paying attention much. Haven't really heard anything about anybody signing anyone in January. Apart from Andrews signing another Korean or something.
Oh, is he?
He's just waiting till January. He's like been in the place. He's just basically said he can't train or do anything, but he's here and he's going to sign. You know, so it's just like. But apart from that, I've heard nothing about anybody signing for any club anywhere.
But I mean, Baz said that we were looking to have one or two in before Leeds on the 4th, which is really curious because there's been no suggestion of names. So whether that means that those are very much lined up and ready to go.
It's just waiting for the window to open.
Yeah, as Thomas says, I'm sure we'll sign a few more keepers. I've no doubt that I did see some rumors about, was it the Manchester United Turkish keeper, and there was like some other keeper as well that we're linked to. So of course there's probably going to be a couple of keepers that we can bring in, and it seems to be our favourite position at the moment. But look, it will be very interesting to see. Do you have score predictions for these two games as we wrap things up?
For 2 games, maybe like a repeat of the 2-1. So 2-1 against Preston. And I reckon we can reverse it and go 1-0 against Blackburn.
I'm feeling confident. I like it. Yeah, I'm probably going to go similar. I'll go same scores as you actually, because I think 2 wins. Because if we were to win these 2 games, it's a big if, but it would mean it'd be quite likely that we'd be probably about 19th or 18th in the table, which would be absolutely massive after where we've been, and would just be a huge way to end the year. And look, and we should also shout out, like, that was our 4th home victory of the entire calendar year, which is pretty ridiculous to say. And can't be understated how significant that is. But look, hopefully it's another 6 points over the coming 2 games. And it's our final episode before Christmas, so we should shout out to all our viewers, hoping that they all have a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Of course, we'll be back for an episode before the New Year, but if people don't catch it, I know during the festive period, things become a bit of a blur and you sort of forget what day it is, and everything sort of mixes together. Look, thanks everyone for listening in and watching along throughout 2024. We'll be back bigger and better than ever in 2025. Thanks. It's 3:30 in the morning over in the UK. So if people are watching along from over in the UK, very much thank you for watching along. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Don't forget to give us a rating if you're listening in on Spotify or anything like that. And with that, I'll say thank you for joining me, Dan.
Not a problem. It's nice to be on after a win.
Absolutely. Yeah, it does make a difference, doesn't it? And thanks everyone for listening in. We'll be back next week. Until then, come on, City.